The Iranians may make it impossible to have an agreement because they're so nuts, they're so radical, they're so evil, and they're so contemptible that they're trying to drag us along right now, whether they shake somebody's hand or don't shake somebody's hand with Hezbollah and so forth and so on. They're trying to drag us on, drag us on, drag us on. And I strongly believe that at some point the President of the United States is going to say, all right, that's enough. That's enough. My perspective on Iran has never changed. It hasn't changed since I was old enough to know what that regime was, 1979. So my view on that Islamist Nazi regime has always been that it's an Islamist Nazi regime. You know, Khomeini wrote a book. The great Bernard Lewis, he went and he dug it up. He had it translated into English. It was in Arabic and Farsi, called Islamic Government. Don't run out and buy it. I don't want to make it the #1 book on Amazon, but it sits on my desk. And I'm probably the only person who talks about this regime that's ever read what the founding father of the regime has ever said. And it is brutal, and it is evil, and it is vicious. And I seriously doubt any of the media that covers this issue ever read the book either. We also have something called experience. Ibn Burke said experience is one of the most important things a person can focus on. What's our experience with this regime? Our experience with this regime is that it lies, it cheats, it's never adhered to a single agreement, verbal or otherwise, and that it seeks to destroy humanity. That is, any individual or group of individuals or any country that does not adhere to its political, religious ideology, which is based in the 7th century. Most faiths go through something called a reformation, and many Muslims have gone through a reformation. Islamists don't. And so what they believe, to put simply, is in a catastrophic worldwide war where everything and everyone is to be slaughtered, destroyed, tortured, raped, until there's complete compliance with their political faith ideology. That's what they write. That's what they say. That's what the imams say. If we would spend more time having English translators or Hebrew translators of what they say, I think more people would understand the context for what's going on. Also, we have a lot of people whose history goes back about 3 minutes, and particularly a lot of young people who aren't all that interested in history. They don't remember 9/11. Many of them weren't born. They don't really know much about the Holocaust, except what they're told by some of the Jew haters. And so they're lacking history. The effort to communicate with them is not there, but it needs to be there. If this regime in Iran could, it would murder every single one of you sitting in this room because you're Jews or you're Christians or you're just not one of them. This is very important to understand. And so we had 7 presidents before Donald Trump who knew what I'm telling you, and that they wouldn't take the steps necessary to confront this regime. In fact, some of them actually subsidized the regime. One of them, Obama, ensured that they would have a pathway to a nuclear weapon. I don't need to hear the debates about it. I read the deal. I know what it says. It's that simple. Then we have Biden, who was literally allowing tens of billions of dollars to flow into the regime because he wasn't enforcing all the rules that had been placed against them getting money and allowing them to sell oil surreptitiously to the Chinese and so forth. So about $150 billion or more poured into that regime when they knew that they were moving toward nuclear weapons. They have manufactured thousands of ballistic missiles with the help of the communist Chinese. Anybody who was in this country over the last 12 months, over the last 6 months, knows what ballistic missiles can do. They can blow out entire communities. They're the size of a yellow school bus. And not a single one of those safe rooms you have in your house or your apartment can do a thing about it. It will blow that off the face of the earth too. These are not your typical missiles. And with a nuclear warhead, you have an intercontinental ballistic missile. And our intelligence and the Israeli intelligence didn't know that their ballistic missiles can now reach the capitals in Europe. And with a little bit more information from the communist Chinese or the Russians or the North Koreans, that access, it will reach the continental United States. This is a very serious matter because if they were to fire 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 ballistic missiles at one time at this country, you can't defend yourself. It would overwhelm any system that exists. And that also applies to any European country and to my country, the United States. The issue of ballistic missiles is critical. The issue of Hezbollah is critical. Hezbollah is much like their front SS operation. and there's a couple 100,000 of them, and they're very heavily armed. Even though we pounded the hell out of Iran and their military, there's Hezbollah. Hezbollah has killed and maimed thousands of Americans. Thousands of Americans. Our Marines, our sailors, our servicemen, our embassy personnel, as well as maybe thousands of Christians in Lebanon. God knows how many Israelis they've killed. They exist for the same reason Iran exists, because they were created by Iran. They are Iran. There's only one country that has gone into Lebanon to fight Hezbollah. Not a European country, not my country, Israel. That's the only country that's gone in to Lebanon to kill Hezbollah. And I'm very upset about this. Israel is killing commanders and leaders of Hezbollah who killed my people, that have bounties on their heads. And they don't even get a thank you note. Now let's get down to the nitty-gritty that you want to hear about, which is this. I'm not going to come up here and slander my friend. That's not what I do to any of my friends. Sometimes we have disagreements with our spouses. Sometimes we have disagreements with our friends. Sometimes we have disagreements with people of our own faith. Just the way it is. It's the nature of human beings. My view is really quite simple. Regardless of who's president or prime minister, the Iranian regime needs to be destroyed. Now, President Trump has done more in that regard than anybody. Last June, when your great country for 12 days fought Iran, knocked out their Air Force once, knocked out their ground-to-air missiles and defense systems, which were given to them by the Russians, went after their ballistic missile systems with the complete support of the United States Navy and Air Force and our missile systems that assisted Iron Dome and the other domes that you have here with our advanced technology too. Two great countries, two great leaders working together against Iran, and then to send our incredible bombers, and they are incredible, and the bombs that were needed to take those sites out and hit their enriched uranium sites. If you could see this technology, it's unbelievable, was incredible. And then the Iranians did what that regime always does. It starts reconstructing. Because you see, ladies and gentlemen, it exists to destroy us. And they will tell you that Allah commands it. And they will tell you that the 12th Imam is among us. But the 12th Imam will not appear, will not create prosperity, equality, paradise on earth until all of you are dead. Until the great Satan, the United States, is wiped out, and the little Satan, Israel, is wiped out, and then the rest of the Western Hemisphere, and any Muslims who don't agree with them too. By the way, do you see what's going on in Gaza right now, where Hamas is slaughtering Palestinians, Palestinians slaughtering Palestinians? Do you even hear about it? You may hear. We don't hear about it in the United States. It's not on any of our broadcasts. The river to the sea crowd's not out. None of them are anywhere. You hear nothing, because it's never about humanity. It's about destroying Israel and the Jewish people. What was done starting late February to the Iranian regime over a 2-week period or so by our tremendous military in the United States and the tremendous military of Israel together, working side by side, organizing side by side, generals working together, admirals working together, your intelligence agencies working with our intelligence agencies, our satellite spotting. It's never been done in the history of warfare before, ever, ever. With overpowering might and technology and guts, their Navy was really wiped out, their Air Force was really wiped out, and so much of the rest of their military was thoroughly wiped out. Thanks to two commanders, President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. And you could hear the press conferences that were given every day by Secretary of War Hegseth, who's fantastic, and the head of our Joint Chiefs, General Kane, who's fantastic. Not one went by where they didn't praise our two countries working together, and they felt almost dazzled by the competency of the Israeli military. The Israeli Air Force, I believe, is the third biggest Air Force in the world. It's because the Israeli Air Force is strong, and it's funded, and it's also because Europe is weak, and they're not spending enough money on defenses. Israel is, and the United States is, but we're not spending enough either. So today we've reached a point, there's a fork in the road. A decision has to be made, right? Do we go on militarily? Do we find a path to resolve this in a different way with the military hanging over the head of the enemy? And the president has chosen the second way, which is his right. He was elected president. He's the commander-in-chief. We have two tremendous leaders in President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu. Reminds me of FDR and Churchill, reminds me of Reagan and Thatcher in many respects. And they worked incredibly well together, but from time to time they had their disagreements. But they agreed on one thing. They agreed that the Nazis were the enemy, and Reagan and Thatcher agreed that the Soviet Union was the enemy. And they had to figure out a way to defeat them. Churchill wanted the Nazis defeated, and so did FDR. Reagan ran for office saying, we win, they lose, when it came to the Soviet Union. And Thatcher agreed. I think our president and your prime minister, when they teamed up last June, when they teamed up in February and are today, have done things that have never been done, even more so than those great leaders. And that's this. I study these things. Two militaries, two intelligence services, two countries have never worked this closely together before in human history. Never. The sharing of our air forces, our intelligence, and more than that, was seamless. Our Secretary of War, the head of the Joint Chiefs, as I was saying, every day they went up to that podium and they gave a press conference and they praised the partnership. They praised our military and they praised your military, especially your Air Force. They were very, very impressed. Now, these are men, our top brass that have seen everything, but they've never seen anything like the Israelis. Remember, at the same time, we're lecturing the Europeans, particularly those in NATO, that aren't stepping up, that haven't built up their militaries. I mean, no offense to Britain, but Britain used to rule the world, they used to say. The British Empire never rested. The sun never set on the British Empire. Well, the sun sets on the British Empire before most of the rest of the country, the rest of the world right now. It's a paper tiger. France is a paper tiger. That's why our president said, you know what, keep your ships. We don't really need them. They're not going to do anything for us. And he was right. And these are unfortunately countries in decline. And they're in decline because they allowed themselves to be in decline. They're in decline because they elected individuals who are weak, while the United States and Israel have elected individuals who are strong. Now, to pick up where I left off, in February, I think that 24, 48-hour period, and certainly 2 weeks, the world has never seen anything like it. Not just the Middle East, the entire world. The speed, the competency, the skills, the professionalism, the overpowering military and intelligence activities against the Iranian regime, slammed it, crushed it, faster than anybody could have imagined, and more thoroughly than anybody could have imagined. And there was a partnership between the so-called big Satan and the little Satan. And then, after a 2 or so week period, a ceasefire was called and went on for about 9 weeks. There was a lot of debate in our country. I don't know what was going on here. Yes, ceasefire, no ceasefire. Problem was, Hezbollah doesn't believe in ceasefires, so it kept attacking Israel. And that means Iran kept attacking Israel, and Iran doesn't really believe in ceasefires either. You know how I know? Because I read what Khomeini wrote in Islamic Government. Everything is a step to an end. And as I was explaining here at the beginning, if they had their way, everybody in this room would be killed. It's the only way the 12th Imam will show up, and it's at the demand of Allah. Look, I challenge the press to read some of this stuff, and then you'll know what we're up against here. And I say we, Israel, the United States. Problem is, the rest of the free world has no idea what's going on or doesn't care. But we have to care because the big Satan and the little Satan are right in the target. So the question is, just from a little commentator's point of view, I don't have access to what the president has and the prime minister has, or have access to knowing what they think and what they want to do. And by the way, for 47 years, Iran has been at war with the United States. Israel too, but the United States. Those are thousands of Americans who've been killed and maimed. Those were 241 of our Marines in that damn barracks. Those were our crewmen who were in Saudi Arabia, 19 of them who were murdered. Those were our 2 embassies in Africa that were blown up. And I could go on and on and on. They have tried and have succeeded in killing Americans. So what I say to the isolationists in our country is this. You won for 47 years. We were isolationists. We appeased. We worse than appeased. We subsidized them. We used every diplomatic tool in the book, and they killed us. And they want a nuclear weapon. And as our president said, they will shoot it into our country. So what do you do about this? Well, if you're England, you do nothing. If you're France, you call for a 2-state solution. You understand. If you're NATO, I don't know what they do. I just know what we did. So we're at a crossroads now. So there's a fork in the road. What do you do? Now, there are risks no matter what you do. That's the nature of war. It's also the nature of diplomacy. So I look at this enemy for 47 years that has signed all kinds of agreements and has violated every one. I know what this enemy believes. What? They tell us what they believe. They put it in writing. Their imams tell us. They give speeches. I'm not Helen Keller. I can see and I can hear. I know what's going on here, okay? And they've killed our people. We, American people. And they want to kill a lot more by the hundreds of thousands. So how do we contain this? So the first question is, can you contain this? I don't think you can. Just my opinion. First of all, in my country, we have an election every 4 years. The enemy knows this. So the enemy plays our election cycles. They don't have elections. You may have noticed. China doesn't have elections. Russia has joke elections. So they use, from their perspective, we have regime change every 4 years. And they're praying the Democrats come in. Why? Because Democrats won't honor anything, and the Iranians won't honor anything. And then we have a big problem. Because the Democrats in my country do not have the will to take on this enemy. Instead, they're attacking our ally, Israel, and the prime minister, which is kind of odd when you really think about it. So their will is to attack our ally, and they don't have the will to attack our enemy. And no, I don't think subsidizing our enemy, and I don't think having agreements with our enemy works. Okay. So the other path is military. And what I hear and what we're told is, well, if we continue, they'll use ballistic missiles to hit the oil fields in the Arab countries, and they don't like that, and they don't want that. Who wants that? Nobody wants that. Got that? Or the price of oil will shoot through the roof and so forth and so on. And I think to myself, we Americans, do you know what our parents and grandparents sacrificed during World War II? Everything. All the steel that was available, all the gold that was available, everything that was available went into the war effort. I think we have like two countries in America. We have countries with people who are patriotic, who understand what's going on, want to deal with the enemy. And then we have people who think we're the enemy, our own government, our own country, or people like us, the Israeli government, the Israeli people. And we really have to fight this. I call it the Islamist Marxist axis. And we have it in our country. And then we have the woke Reich, R-E-I-C-H, the neo-fascists, I call them. Like the 1930s in our country and other countries, they're very vocal. The president has challenged all of them. The president has denounced all of them. The president has denounced unequivocally the woke right. My party seeks to keep them out. The Democrat Party has become the Marxist Islamist axis. Just listen to them today. One guy says he wants to run for president against Israel, and he is one of the leaders of the Democrat Party. So President Trump has to deal with all this. He also has to deal with the economy, prices, affordability, and all these things. And these other countries that obviously are concerned about what a military impact would be. I'm not president, obviously. I just try to look at the bigger picture. Can this enemy be contained? I say no. It has to be defeated. It has to be pulled out by the roots. Their military might be 80 or 90% defeated, but their ideology is not. How do you defeat their ideology? We actually had people in the Biden administration say, you can't defeat an ideology. Ideologies are destroyed all the time on the battlefield. You destroy the ideology by destroying the source of the ideology. And so I looked at the MOU, and I have a few problems with it. And I hope by voicing those problems, if we're going to take this route, and it's not clear that it'll be the final route, by the way, it's not clear there will be a final deal, or maybe there will. There's a couple problems I see. And so I raise them and hope that they'll be looked at. Number one, the nuclear issue is number 8 out of 14 points. And I read it, and it's very ambiguous. In my view, it should have been number 1, and it should be much more detailed, even in a memorandum of understanding. And I hope that'll happen. Number 2, will the communist Chinese comply with every agreement we come up with? Will North Korea comply with any agreement we come up with? When President Trump leaves office, and let's say it's a Kamala Harris or a Cory Booker or whomever it is, a whole conga line, does anybody really believe that they will take the steps that are effective to stop this enemy from getting a nuclear weapon? How about the enriched uranium? Does anybody really believe they will take the steps to do anything about it? See, my contention is this. 3 years of Donald Trump, I can sleep at night. When he leaves office, I can't sleep at night. And I think the enemy knows that a lot of America might sleep for those 3 hours and then after 3 years, and then afterwards it might strike. There are other things too I'll just mention very, very quickly. How can you not address ballistic missiles? That is absurd. Intercontinental ballistic missiles are what carries nuclear warheads. And if they fire 3 or 4 or 5,000 at Israel or Saudi Arabia or anybody else, you cannot defend against it. And these things are as big as a yellow school bus. It's not a theory. We saw what they do. They can take in an entire neighborhood. So that needs to be addressed. And Hezbollah needs to be addressed too. Again, Hezbollah is Iran. In my view is, the way that language is written, no way in hell should America be a protectorate for Hezbollah. So I've raised these issues. The president's a smart man. He loves America. He's got access to a lot more information than I do. And I'm not an advisor. I just give my opinion. And I think that whatever the MOU is, maybe there will be agreement, maybe there won't be agreement. And by the way, last point, the Iranians may make it impossible to have an agreement because they're so nuts, they're so radical, they're so evil, and they're so contemptible that they're trying to drag us along right now, whether they shake somebody's hand or don't shake somebody's hand with Hezbollah and so forth and so on. They're trying to drag us on, drag us on, drag us on. And I strongly believe that at some point the president of the United States is going to say, all right, that's enough. That's enough. My 2 cents worth, maybe it's 1 cent worth.